I overheard my fiancée secretly planning to marry me, then divorce me for half my assets and run back to her ex, so I exposed her in front of everyone and her plans crumbled. I, 29 male, thought I had it all figured out. I've worked my ass off to build a life for myself, a small but growing business, a house, and what I thought was the perfect relationship. My fiancée, 27F, and I were supposed to get married in just a couple of weeks. She'd been by my side for years, and I really believed she had my back. She didn't come from much, which made me think she understood the grind and appreciated what we had. She always talked about how proud she was of me and how she admired my drive. It was easy to believe her. I mean, why wouldn't I? Relationships are built on trust, right? But man, looking back now, I can see all the little things I brushed off as nothing. It turns out they were giant red flags, but I was too blind to see them. She'd constantly talk about her ex, let's call him rich guy, not like she missed him, but more like she wanted me to know what I was being measured against. He was loaded, she'd say, and used to take me on these crazy trips, shower me with gifts, blah blah. She'd always follow it up with, but I left him because he wasn't real like you, and I'd just nod along thinking I'd won the lottery with her. What an idiot. The entitlement started showing up in small ways. She once told me to fire one of my employees, someone who'd been with me since I started the business. The woman was in her 50s and had been nothing but loyal, but my fiancé thought she didn't fit the image of the company. Her exact words were, "Don't you want your team to look young and modern? She's holding you back." I shut that down real quick, but it turned into this huge argument. Another time, she hosted a girls' night at some fancy place and charged the bill to my business card. When I found out, she said, "It's a networking expense, you should be thanking me." I was furious and canceled the card she had access to, but I still let her talk her way out of it. She even had a problem with my hobbies. I like hiking and woodworking, nothing crazy, just stuff I enjoy to unwind. But she'd always make fun of it. Who has time for that when we could be doing something productive? She'd say. She'd push me to go to fancy events or dinners with her instead, like that was more important. At the time, I thought all of this was just normal relationship stuff, people clash, right? You compromise and move on, but none of it felt like compromise now that I know what she was really thinking. 3 weeks before the wedding, I got home early from a meeting. I wasn't trying to sneak around or anything, but as I walked in, I heard her on the phone. She was in the bedroom talking loud enough that I could hear her from the hall. I was about to call out when something stopped me. Her tone was weird, like she was laughing and bragging about something. Then I heard her say, "It's all falling into place. Once the wedding's done and we combine finances, I'll file for divorce. He won't know what hit him. And don't worry babe, I'll be back with you soon." I froze. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was laughing, saying how clueless I was and how she'd get half of everything. She even called me boring and said I was just a stepping stone. I stood there for what felt like forever listening to her talk about her big plans with her ex. Then she hung up, and I just left. I didn't even bother going inside that night. I stayed at a buddy's place. I didn't tell him what was going on yet because I needed to figure it out myself first. By the next morning, I had a plan. The first thing I did was call my lawyer. I explained what I'd overheard, and he immediately told me to lock down my assets. Thankfully, the house was in my name and she wasn't legally tied to the business, but just to be safe, I updated all my accounts and made sure there was no way she could touch anything. I also bought a small voice recorder and placed it in the living room. If she was willing to talk so openly on the phone, I figured it wouldn't take long to get proof, and I was right. Over the next week, I caught her having multiple conversations with her friends about her plan. One time she said, "It's not like he'll fight back, he's such a pushover. By the time he realizes what's happening, I'll already have what I want." Another time she talked about her wedding demands, laughing about how she was squeezing me for upgrades because I owed her. The audacity was insane. She even said she was doing me a favor by sticking around as long as she had. I kept my cool the entire time. I acted normal, played the part of the clueless fiancé, and even agreed to some of her ridiculous wedding requests just to keep her off my trail. 2 weeks later, on the day of what was supposed to be our wedding, I asked her to meet me at the venue early. I told her we needed to go over some last-minute details before the guests arrived. She showed up in her dress looking like she thought she'd already won, but instead of walking into a wedding setup, she walked into a room full of her parents, my family, and a few close friends. I was standing at the front with a stack of papers and a USB drive. "What's going on?" she asked, her smile fading fast. I didn't waste time. "This isn't a wedding, it's an intervention," I said. "I know what you've been planning, and everyone here is about to find out too."